with Intermountain Healthcare.
New baby stress is bad enough without having to worry about the basics like feeding them. We've got tips to feed your baby. Kimberly Hurte from Primary Children's Rehab at Riverton Hospital joins me now to share her expertise. So that is a stressful thing, Kimberly. I feel like you think, I've got to take care of this human. Can they just eat? You'd think that would be a natural thing. But why is it so hard for some babies?
So there's a lot of different reasons that a baby might have a hard time eating. Sometimes it's caregiver stress. Being really stressed about how to feed your baby causes that baby to have difficulty figuring out how to eat. If there's any sort of oral motor difficulties, so if a baby has a hard time moving their mouth, they're gonna have a really hard time latching, expressing milk and formula, and swallowing it safely. If a baby is born premature or has a syndrome or different things like that, their body and system isn't always made to just eat naturally. There's some other reasons too that a baby might have a hard time. If they don't have good trunk control, if they're not in a good feeding position, all of that can really impact a kid's feeding success.
So when would you know if your baby's not getting enough food, and if it's just normal or if it's something you should come see a speech pathologist for?
Yeah, so if your baby's not gaining weight, having a hard time growing, that is a huge red flag that you need to come get help. If your baby is refusing to eat or drink, spitting up or throwing up, reflux, different things like that could be a big reason to come get some help.
Well, and there's so many different things, and I wouldn't realize that a speech pathologist is who you should come to. Why is that?
So in graduate school, we do a lot of training in how mouth muscles work, how throat muscles, how core muscles all work together to produce speech. And that is all related to how you eat. It's the exact same muscles that are used with eating. So occupational therapists also have training in working with kids with eating and swallowing disorders as well, especially that older population who has difficulties with sensory system differences. An occupational therapist can be especially helpful in transitioning to different textures of foods.
Well, and let's talk about the different sort of textures of foods we have out on the table right now. What have you brought with you today, and why did you bring it?
Yeah, so a lot of people get into mealtime ruts, and kids get bored. And so we see a lot of mealtime refusal and food refusal from kids because it's not exciting. Parents are pushing something on their kid. Maybe they're eating the same thing for lunch 3 days in a row. It's the same bowl, the same spoon. That's boring.
So kids need excitement even when it comes to mealtime?
Yes. Kids
Isn't
need
it enough
so much
I'm
variety.
making your food for you? Dang it. Okay, so what would your tips be to help us out in that
Kids
section?
need so much variety and have fun. Be positive. Eat the same thing your kid is eating. Don't just make them a meal and put it on the high chair and walk away. Sit down with your kid, eat with them, show them how to eat it, have fun. One thing I love doing is fun containers. So you can take a whole variety of colorful veggies with some ranch dip in there and serve it to your kid as a snack, instead of just putting one bell pepper on a tray with some ranch and just being like, here's your snack. This is fun, this is creative, this is different, and a kid's gonna be really excited to dip and explore.
Well, and what I think's fun about this is it's going to keep my kids entertained for a couple minutes. I mean, Maggie will sit there and eat that, and it's like an activity they're doing, not just eating.
Muffin tins, most people have muffin tins laying around their house filled out with different snacks. I chose to use a smiley plate for this snack, but you could put fruit and cheese and nuts all in a muffin tin, and then you have a lot of variety, a lot of excitement, and it's something different rather than just a boring plate.
Well, and I think it's fun to look at it this way. I didn't even know at first glance what this was, but this is cheese. That's cheese you have there.
So it's just a string cheese that I cut up into different cubes, so it changes the shape. If your kid loves string cheese and they're eating it all the time, cut it into a different shape. Be silly with it, have fun. You can use little swords or toothpicks.
This would get dangerous in the Miller home, I can tell you that right now. But it would definitely get them eating the cheese. Okay, this little plate we've got here doesn't look like my kids would have a hard time and fight me on eating it. What do you have here?
So some kids actually have a really hard time transitioning. If they like graham crackers, they might have a really hard time eating something that doesn't look and feel exactly like that graham cracker. And so offering something like a Teddy Graham, we're changing the shape, we're changing the color, we're changing the way it looks. And so that to a lot of kids is kind of like a new food, and that's a challenge. And so this can have a good variety, and even it's just helping your kid loosen up and not be so rigid.
Such a great thing, and it's going to help the parents loosen up and not be so rigid when it comes to mealtime. If your child is having a difficult time eating, swallowing, and you think it may be a deeper issue, please call the number on the screen. Primary Children's Outpatient Rehab Clinic at Riverton Hospital. Speech pathologists are there to help you figure it out together. You're not alone in this. We will link their website from our website. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here today.
You.
I think I'm going to eat one of these cheese into the break. Brian?
Feel good.